And listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit podcast. This is Tanner.
Corey's here.
And David's always here.
Nice energy.
It's top of the morning to these listeners.
It is.
It has been a great day of recording podcasts. We love being able to get in studio and meet a lot of new friends. We also love hearing from our listeners, no matter where you're at. So thanks for sending us messages, farmforprofitllc@gmail.com, 515-207-9640. We did get a message about our mental health show. I feel like people keep picking this up, even after it's been longly released. And I don't know if I believe this, listener. Hey, guys, really appreciate you. What helps my mental health is waking up with coffee out in my garden and Farm for Profit on the radio.
Oh,
so
my.
You slept in your garden?
His boots on, too. It's a Harvey song.
Waking up in the garden?
I responded back. I said, are you sure? But appreciate you listening. So, yeah, it's great to have people keep letting us know when shows hit some value to you one way or the other. And it is amazing, the number of comments we've gotten out of that show. So I'm glad that we can provide a little bit of value that way.
Yep, absolutely. So I want to get into this. Get right to this.
You just want to go, right?
Yeah, this is way off of the beaten path for what we normally talk about. People always, say that we're just for big ag, and then when we do a small ag show, then the big ag people are, where's the big ag? So we're just going to go completely out into left field and do a show on flowers.
Are you going to
flowers? Did you
incorporate
just say flowers?
Big flower.
Are you going to incorporate top of the morning to you somehow there?
Why do I need to do that?
I didn't know if it was a precursor or a suggestive to where we're going.
Is that a thing?
I don't know.
Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning to you? Where would you think? What country do you think that comes from?
Scotland?
It just makes me think
Irish?
old.
Ireland?
Old? Yeah.
Yeah?
I don't know.
Do you know?
I don't.
Does Dave know? He doesn't even know the answer?
I would think Irish.
Okay.
I think Scotland. I thought he was trying to be a leprechaun playing the flowers.
Do you know that there's a jazz song out there that has playful lyrics that metaphorically question a lover's intentions called Tulip or Turnip?
No. I think we just need to get into the...
Oh, do you?
This has gone too far.
It's gone too far.
All right. Today on the Farm for Fun show, we're heading out to the West Coast, the Northwest to be exact, and we are, like I said, going off the beaten path of farming, but as we determine in this show, it is still farming. And it's a guy that started off his career not in farming at all. He started off in the military, and then he went to tech, and somehow found himself farming tulips. We find out he's the tulip outlaw. Please welcome, from Washington... You can find him on Instagram and Facebook at the Tulip Valley Farms, Mr. Andrew Miller.
A.K.A. the Colorblind Tulip Farm.
Tulip Outlaw. Tulips is better than one.
Farm for Profit podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit podcast.
All right, Andrew, welcome to the Farm for Profit, Farm for Fun show. You're coming at us from where up in the northwest?
That's right. I'm from Mount Vernon, Washington, which is about 60 miles north of Seattle and about 80 miles south of Vancouver, BC, on the coast.
Nice. So this is a Farm for Fun show. We like to learn about our guests, get a little bit of background before we dive deep into what they're doing. So tell us about little Andrew.
Yeah, so I grew up here in Skagit Valley, which is a great place to grow up. Small farming town, or at least it used to be a small farming community. It's getting a little bit bigger, and the ag production is actually going down. Right, it's not even in the top 10, but that's what everybody associates with. And I can't go anywhere in the world that somebody pronounces Skagit correctly and doesn't associate it with tulips. Right. But so I, like a lot of kids who grew up in small towns, I couldn't wait to get out, and I was never coming back. I joined the Air Force. I was an intelligence officer. But the only qualification I have for being a farmer is I have 6 kids. Right. I did not grow up farming. I got here as soon as I could. But one day I woke up at Amazon, and I'd had 3 bosses in 9 months. And I said, there's got to be a better way for me to wear my life out than helping Jeff Bezos become more billionaire. And so I decided to move home. I was living just south of Seattle, where my wife grew up, and I got a law degree and an MBA and a couple other master's degrees. So I got 4 graduate degrees and no natural science classes, right? I'm the least likely farmer in the world. But when I moved home, I got a chance to work as a strategist in economic development. And that's kind of how I got into farming, is that I really, coming back in a community that you grew up in with fresh eyes and a lot of world experience, to be able to say, hey, if we want to keep farming 50 years from now, what's that going to look like? Or what's our unique value proposition for, as a community? And so I had a lot of conversations as a strategist that ended with, hey, if it's such a good idea, Andrew, why don't you do it? And so I decided to. And I jumped into tulip farming because that is really where I thought that our biggest impact could be. And then I woke up 6 years later and we just finished our best season ever.
Nice. So
there's so much in that.
we got. Where do you want to start, Tanner?
What is an intelligence officer in the military?
So I was in the Air Force, and so it was my job to know everything about everything and be able to help people understand. At the end of the day, intelligence officers help people. We help break things and kill people and get people home safe, right? And so I'd have to know everything from the gimbal limits of an air-to-air missile to the intricacies of the water disputes in Kashmir between Pakistan and India. And so it was great for me. I love learning, but no day was the same. And I actually gravitated towards counterterrorism, counter-narco terrorism. And so I worked, basically I chased bad guys all over the world. And then I put together teams that did that. And so that was fascinating, right? I had to try to stay a step ahead of the people who are trying to do us harm or destroy our communities.
And how long did you do that for?
I did that for 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah. What time frame?
Thank you.
So I got out in 2013.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was, I got to be a major, and I actually hadn't deployed because a lot of the work that I did was, again, behind the scenes. So I was working for 3-letter agencies and all over the world. But it's one of those things you get on a list you don't get off of. And like I said, I have 6 kids, and 2 of my sons are on the autism spectrum. And so taking off for the desert for a year to leave my wife with six kids in, I think, 8 years, we got them packed in there. It was just, you know what, we're just going to make the best decision for our family. And I transitioned to the tech industry, which was out of the frying pan and into the fire. Right. I was home every night, but I was working 16 to 18-hour days. I started with Expedia and Warehouser, but it was great. I had this training of going really hard and trying to figure out how do you make a difference? What are the different, what's the most important thing right now? And so bringing that to Amazon or Expedia or Warehouser was pretty easy.
Speaking of Amazon,
I gotta know who's the dude in the windows.
I don't know. Yeah, you're just trying to get in.
I don't know.
If you need
did you book somebody else? Is this a duet?
Yeah.
No, that's not one of ours. We do like practical jokes.
Yeah, well, that could be
on an
one.
intelligence officer sending someone in to sneak up on him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Behind me, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Let's see how intelligent you are.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild that you're having to do and keep track of all that information. And again, appreciate all that you did to keep us safe. But I've always wondered what that role is. You're the guy that has to have the answers, is what it sounded like.
That's exactly it. Helping people to make better choices. I actually wrote. I had a chance to study at the Center for Homeland Defense and Security in Monterey, California, and I wrote my thesis. One of my master's theses is on how to use Homeland Security intelligence. Like I had a conversation with a fire chief from New York City that said, Andrew, what you do doesn't matter until it changes what I do. And that was kind of like a aha moment, right? Here I spend all this time trying to figure out what the bad guys are doing and what the good guys can do better. And he said, you know what? It's a waste until you help me save lives. And that's a lot different when you try to bring that, a problem solving set from the military side and apply it domestically. But there's some applications across the board for that, even in economic development. You could sit in your office and work all day, but if it doesn't help, improve the quality of life for the people in your community, it's kind of a waste.
Yeah. So you were in during 9/11 then? I
was. Yep. I actually was in intel officer training on 9/11. I remember we walked by a break room. We were on our way to a graduation or something like that. It was in San Angelo, Texas. It was where the Air Force trains its intel garden spot. But we walked by and somebody said, "Hey, what movie is that?" Because the TV was showing it at CNN, and boy, life was never the same after that day. Boy, it was on. Different world.
You ever watch the Netflix series SEAL Team?
Oh yeah.
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 That's what I picture when I picture the intelligence of all of the people that are helping the SEAL team. So
No, there's a lot of that's super tactical stuff, and then there's guys running around. I mean, I got to do stuff from that. I mean, I worked a lot of counter narco terrorism, so I go places like Colombia or Hawaii or Europe, and just try to help decision makers know what was going on. And then and I am in bed with a special forces team in Indonesia. I wake up one day thinking, wow, this is not normal.
So you went from that to flowers.
it sounds
Yes,
awesome.
to tulips. Yep.
I mean, there's some tech in between, but
Yeah.
what a wild change of events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever feel like you're not doing it anymore?
And it's so funny. It really is. What the biggest challenge really is kind of letting go, right? It's kind of this hard stop. Even when I was at Amazon, I was in charge of business. I did a lot of business continuity. So we had 3 screens going, and CNN and like Sky News or Al Jazeera in English, just trying to figure out what the rest of the world is thinking. And so you have this really broad net, and then you bring it home, and it's like, what's the weather going to be like? And other things that I can't control, right? With the fertilizer prices and diesel and all these other data points. But it really helps it helped me. And I tell people all the time, I spent 14 years trying to look around corners, and it taught me a lot about what's important and critical factors and the timing of decisions. You can make the right choice at the wrong time, and it's still the wrong choice. Yeah, and you see that
Laser
all
discs.
the time. Yeah,
Laser discs. They were good,
Right.
but wrong time. Yeah. You guys are probably too young for laser discs.
We
I remember
you've
the
brought that
disc.
up a
Yeah,
couple of times.
the high school was full of them.
Yeah, it was huge. They were big, like records.
Yeah,
All right, so tulips.
yeah, tulips.
I know what the flower looks like. It's a bulb, correct?
It is a bulb. Yep.
I've
And I could
always
not have
been-
told you that 6 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I knew they were bulbs, but I didn't know why that mattered. It's like a big seed, right? No, it's not like a big seed.
Well, I don't know what it matters. That's why
Yeah.
I was going with the question, because I imagine if you're going to plant acres and acres, you need a whole bunch of bulbs, and you don't see tulips putting more bulbs out to harvest. How's that work?
They kind of do. And so you're right about that acres and acres apart, right? So I actually was in Holland last week. I went to check because I hear from brokers, how expensive bulbs are going to be. And I'll just, for a data point, they're between, 10 cents and 30 cents a piece. So if you're going to put 100,000 bulbs in or 1 million bulbs in, that's a big expense. And that's why we don't have a lot of tulip farms. Actually, there's only one commercial tulip bulb grower left in the United States. And the reason for that is because you're never going to out-Dutch the Dutch. Right, they've got it wired tight as far as those efficiencies. And we used to do 4,000 acres of tulips here in Skagit Valley. It was a big deal. We are still the largest bulb producer in the United States, but it's because we're the only bulb producer. And again, it's because you're never going to out-Dutch the Dutch. And so the only ones that are left are the ones that went fully integrated and diversified, right? And so to be able to figure out how to do that, and so that's not what I do. Right, I grow flower. I'm actually I'm a feelings farmer, right? That's the funniest thing. So I can get by with a half, and I have up to 4 million bulbs, but I didn't start with that, right? I started with 1 million bulbs and kind of a premise, right, or a thesis that people would come, and people want to be on our farm. It's a beautiful place to be, but I am absolutely a feeling farmer. Like, color is my crop. But feelings are where I differentiate. Like, this is without people on my farm, I don't make money, and I make all of my money, and 95% of my revenue comes in a 6-week period. Right. And so I kind of giggle. Like, people are, and one year it was a horrible planting season, and somebody says, well, aren't you just going to replant? I'm like, this is not soybeans. This is not corn. This is not wheat. You don't replant. Right. You go back to the bank and try over.
Get some shorter season bulbs in there.
Yeah.
Shorter season bulbs. 1 week
Yeah.
bulbs.
It's funny, right? We get made fun of as grain farmers for planting it and then going to the lake and then coming back and harvesting it. You need to get made fun of. You're only working 6 weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing, and it's there's going to the lake, but there's only about, I would say, there's probably 6 weeks of the year that I'm not either planting, harvesting, storing, and that's coming up. This is one of them, right? We just finished our season. You top all you top all the flowers, and that's when the bulb starts. It's the only time that it actually grows or recharges, because bulbs actually they recharge, and then they do actually kick off little baby bulblets. And that's one of the reasons that we can grow amazing tulip bulbs. You can grow a tulip in a gravel parking lot in Denver, but you can't grow a tulip bulb.
I was going to call you a boblet.
Yeah. And so that long wet springs keep the leaves green, and then all of that, that's how the bulbs recharge. And that's why the Netherlands is famous for it. They're actually, tulips are native to the mountains of Kazakhstan. They're mountain flowers. Right? So everything that we like about tulips is manipulated. Right. And so it is a highly manipulated, and it's a finicky little flower. But people love it. It's the most popular flower in the world. There's 2,600 different varieties of tulips under cultivation.
Whoa.
It's more popular than the rose.
Yes. More people grow tulips than roses, because roses are a hassle. I was actually, this is my wife. My wife and my mom are so embarrassed, but there was an article in the New York Times for Mother's Day, and they called me and interviewed me. And I said, the thing about tulips is they have all of the significance that we decide to give them, and roses are just about sex. Right. But tulips, you can give tulips. You just pick the decision. Why are you giving somebody tulips? And you get to actually imprint your meaning on that significance, that's how I got into it. Like I was at Amazon, I had all these choices. I'm trilingual JD MBA. I could do anything, supposedly. And I chose tulips because I wanted to do something significant.
MBA.
What was that?
Trilingual JD MBA. So law degree and an MBA, and I speak 3 languages. And Dutch is not one of them.
And Dutch is not one of them.
Yeah, but all the Dutchmen I know speak English better than I do. So
here, I thought you were from Iowa. I read the pre-show notes, and it said Mount Vernon. Well, there's a Mount Vernon, Iowa.
Oh, there's Mount Vernon everywhere, right?
Tulips. Well, we have a big tulip festival down here in Pella. I was like, oh, so it's in Iowa. It's an Iowa deal. And they said Washington. There's a Washington, Iowa. I'm like, am I getting this wrong?
Yeah.
Yep, I am.
Yeah, no, yeah, we're a little valley nestled between the Cascade Mountains and the San Juan Islands here in Puget Sound, and so it's a very maritime. It's a super unique growing environment because we're right next to the ocean, so we get this maritime air that comes in every night, cools down. Our growing profile is different than anywhere else. There's only like 2 or 3 other places in the world like we have. So our berries are sweeter. The corn is sweeter just because every night it cools down. Like our soil cools down, the air cools down, and that actually allows us to grow. What
are all the reasons you've given your wife tulips?
I basically it's apology. She's got it narrowed down. Every time she sees tulips coming, it's
red ones mean I'm sorry. Let's get married.
I did give her tulips on our very first date, right? And so I think it's been downhill since there. And they were white tulips, which is significant. Like the significance historically is that's about hope and eternity. And she saw those and was like, whoa, maybe this is going somewhere.
Oh, whoa!
I was like, pump the brakes there, tough guy.
See, if someone gave me white tulips, I wouldn't know the significance. I'd be like, thanks. Why did you just give me tulips?
Yeah. Well, and you can imprint whatever on. You can look it up. You could, there's some static ones, but it's like you can just say, hey, here's some flowers. I'm thinking of you.
Is there funeral tulips?
No. Well, I guess you could. You could give somebody tulips for funerals. Tulips they're pretty unique. They're very, there are a lot of tulips that come out of greenhouses, right? And so you can get tulips year round. They're really a spring flower. And so that's the symbolism of the spring flowers is really rebirth. Like it's the renewal. That's why people really get jazzed, internationally about tulips, because we're crawling out of our gray phase. And daffodils are early. Daffs come before tulips. I like to say they're the handmaiden of tulips because they're not as pretty, and they got a very important job, and that's to protect the tulips, let everybody know they're coming. That's, you could have, sure, if you believe in reincarnation or resurrection, tulips are a great flower for a funeral.
or you can just give them some dead tulips.
Yeah. There are black. There are no black tulips and there are no blue tulips. All right. So black, they sell them as black, but they're just really, really dark purple.
Red signifies love. Orange signifies understanding. Yellow is just because.
Just because.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Yellow tulips, they don't age very well and they bruise really easy. So be careful with those ones.
Purple is expensive and revered, so it signifies wealth. We already talked about white. Pink is congratulations.
There you go. And now, internationally, pink is on the rise. Like it used to. I was at the World Tulip Summit last October, and they were talking about that. And especially in Asia, white used to be all the rage, and now it's pink. Pink is the.
If your tulips are blue, that means you're cold.
Yeah, if your tulips are blue, that means they were dyed.
I did.
Get it? That
Your
was
tulips.
good.
Yeah, there you go. You're hypothermic.
Yeah. So do you get one tulip per bulb, or do you get
typically
10 per acre, or is there what do you get?
Yeah, you get one bloom per bulb unless it's like 1 in a million. And sometimes they do have some multi-branching ones that are kind of new that are coming out. But yeah, one bloom per bulb. And then typically we do, in the garden, we basically in the field add a big Dutch tulip planter, and I plant pretty thick. I plant about 15 bulbs per linear foot. The industry standard 6, but I do U-pick. So when people come through and pick stuff out, I don't want my field to look all picked over. So I plant really thick. In the garden, you plant about a fist width apart. And so we have a show garden and some other. So that's what's great about tulips.
Planter. I want to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
I have a net planter. So all of my tulips are planted inside of a net tube. That makes harvesting. It's a pain to plant, but direct planting with tulips is kind of a hassle. Especially, I thought I had sandy soil, but I have sandy loam. But then I went to the Netherlands, and it's like legit sand. It's 2% organic material. They're farming the bottom of the North Sea, right? And so where they have sand, they don't use nets, but where they have what they call heavy soil, which is what I have, everything goes into nets. It makes harvesting a whole lot simpler because I just plant them in the nets, you grow them, top them, flail it, and then I have a machine that goes under that pulls the whole net tube above ground, and that tube goes into the bins, and we go off and process them. It beats the heck out of it. Last year, I almost lost a finger because I had a modified potato planter that was pulling out because I had to direct plant my first year, and it was literally a 60-year-old machine, So 60 years ago, they didn't care much about safety, and I just wasn't paying attention, and zap, almost lost my finger to the hydraulic reel because it was an open belt. Not recommended.
I was looking at pictures. You said you pull the bulbs out of the ground
every year. Got to pull them out every year.
Well, I have tulips at my house that I don't touch, and they come back every year.
You have magic soil, and they're probably not packed in as thick as mine are, right? And so that's the thing when you're growing your own tulips. At home, I do suggest it because it's the root structure that needs to reestablish every year. But what happens probably at your house is it just gets just enough sun to recharge the bulb without overcharging the bulb that causes the baby bulblets to kick off. And because what happens then, those baby bulblets start to grow, and you've probably got pretty permissive soil. But like if you had a heavy clay or something, you have a bunch of baby bulblets around that one bulb, and it would squeeze the bulb and it wouldn't grow. A stressed tulip doesn't flower. And so typically what happens the first year you throw it in the ground, you get great flowers. Second year you might get meh flowers. Third year you just get salad because it either is getting too much energy that's causing baby bulblets to kick off, or it's not getting enough energy to be able to throw a flower. So it's energy management for tulips. When they charge just enough, they don't have the bulblets. But I keep mine on as long as possible. That's how I grow my stock.
So when I think farmer, I think corn and beans. I think rancher. I think cattle and livestock. What's flowers? What's the term for flowers?
The horticulture.
Horticulturalist.
Horticulturalist.
Mm-hmm. But and there's a huge debate about that. Is it really farm? I get that all the time. Am I a real farmer? And then I look at all the, according to my bank account, I am, right? And the ER doc would say that I am, but it's a huge struggle. Even in my own community, like we have 88,000 acres of farmland in Skagit Valley, which it sounds like a lot. We're one of the last communities in Western Washington, at least, that could identify. It has the infrastructure. We've got Tractor Supply stores. We've got fertilizer. But that doesn't exist in a lot of Western Washington anymore, just because we're urban adjacent. But with 0.2% of that ag, so there's about 200 acres that are in tulips. We create between $63 and $85 million worth of economic benefit, which is more than the potatoes, which is the number one crop that's grown in Western Washington. So on 0.2%, not even 0.5% of the soil, but that's not revenue that I see. That's people that are coming into my community to see the tulips. And it's the only time my neighbors in Vancouver or Seattle think about farming at all. Right? They might go to Whole Foods, but the only time it's hard to get on a farm in Western Washington unless you know a farmer. And yet every April, every spring, we throw our doors open and invite our urban neighbors to come up and check it out. And they're there because it's a beautiful thing. They wouldn't be there for potatoes, although tulips are kind of just like fancy potatoes if you look at it, the way they grow. Yeah.
Well, I think he's a farmer. Why do you think people would not say it's a
curious
farmer.
if there was slang words for it, like it's just salad. Like he mentioned, you just have salad, you have no flour. Like I'm guessing there was a slang word for the tulip world. Like
I feel like a farmer. I think maybe some people would say, "Oh, it's got to go to food," but I think it's anything you grow that brings money back to your bank account.
Yeah, that's what I go with. It's soil based. My revenue is soil based, so I'm farming, right? If it comes out of the ground, if I depend on the weather for it, the dirt and the weather, then that's farming. But you get some people to say, you're just a fancy gardener. I'm like, I don't really care. My customers don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not. And here's the other thing: is I don't play games that I can't win. And commodity agriculture is a game that I don't care to play because I know I can't win. And it's not even a game that I think can be won in Western Washington, right? I mean, so
right.
It's really trying to figure out how do we keep, because that's what I started with. I started with the discussion, like the question at the top of the page is how can we keep farming in Western Washington 50 years from now? And one of the huge threads in that answer was in getting our urban neighbors to come out and pay us for, create value that our urban neighbors, because calories are cheap, but experiences, people will pay a premium, and transformative experiences, stand in the middle of a tulip field. I get more people out there, just tears.
So how much did you Google agritourism before you started?
Oh, I didn't know anything about it, but I'm like, it's all I've been doing for 10 years is agritourism, trying to figure out, what's going to work.
So you got like a farm store, little experience?
I don't. There's a huge part of that. Agritourism, the bumper sticker for that is, things that you can do that people will pay you to do on your farm, other than commodity or production. So yeah, farm stands, farm stores. Depending on where you live in the country, like you could put a friggin' Ferris wheel out there and call it agritourism, right? You have amusement parks on ag land, and some places that works. Other places are like, in my community, no way. Because that's not soil based, right? They don't even like farm weddings. They're like, yeah, that's not allowed. I'm like, what do you mean not allowed, right? And some of the most profitable, angles, value that you can create is in people paying $25,000 for a weekend on a farm, right? We're not even there. We're at the lake, right? If we're so you want to use the barn, and you want to do, and so these are really, I like to call they're ag adjacent, but they're still soil based. Right. Mm-hmm. Because it's coming out of it. If it wasn't on a farm, it wouldn't work. It's not just cheap dirt, right? It's the land use issues and some of those, but I had a developer that came in a couple of weeks ago. He was looking at putting in a steel mill, and he said, Andrew, there are two Americas. There are Americas where I come in and offer to put a $2 billion steel mill in, and they don't care what it's zoned. And there's America where it could be $20 billion and you're not rezoning that ag land to bring in a steel mill. And I said, yeah. And this is, we're in the latter. It doesn't matter how much money you have. We're not going to give up our ag land for a steel mill.
Yeah. So you make your money from you pick. People come out and pick these flowers. You don't pick them.
Nope.
You're not selling them for bouquets or nothing.
I don't wholesale. My revenue is experience based. And so about 2/3 of the people that come out, they're just there to take pictures.
Yeah.
And then some of them do U-Pick. And this year we really got it dialed in. And so we started selling a lot more U-Pick, but that it helps me to differentiate, cause there are 4 other tulip venues. And people call them gardens or whatever. They're tulip farms. But mine is the only U-Pick. And the reason I did U-Pick is not because I'm a smart man, but it's because there's 150 U-Pick tulip farms in the United States and Canada. And not one of those was in the largest tulip festival in North America, which is the Skagit Valley Tulip Festival. So I looked around and said, hey, I think people want to do U-Pick. And it actually cost me a partnership because I got pretty active about, hey, we need to reinvent ourselves. I was at one farm and they said, hey, that sounds like a good thing for you to do somewhere else, Andrew. And so I did. I started my own farm. And a year that 15,000 farms went out of business, I started mine, right? And it was based on this premise that I know that I live about 80 miles from 6.5 million people. And I'm convinced that I can get 30,000 people to come out and give me between $15 and $30.
I love the fact that you said you got to reinvent yourself. I think that's the future of agriculture, is reinventing or pivoting just a touch. So,
well, what he talked about was he didn't want to be a commodity farmer, and we are commodity farmers. Well, commodities are, you said calories are cheap. what makes calories? Commodities, right?
Yep.
Right.
And it's the quickest to the lowest, and man, we get a lot of people up in arms. There's been some heated debates on the social medias lately. Just farmers going after other farmers,
Well, and that is the biggest challenge. Is that I like to say that the problem with commodity agriculture is it's a race to the bottom that you might win, or at least there are a lot of losers, right? And so it's this race to the bottom, and there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. And it's driven by, it's like you said, it's the efficiencies, and efficiencies are all about consolidation. We used to have 120, big mid-sized farms here in Skagit Valley. Now there's 12, right? And then there's going to be 8, and then there's going to be 2, and they're going to be so big that only BlackRock or Bill Gates can buy them, right? Yep. And then good luck figuring out your rotation, because everything we do here is rotational. Potatoes, spinach seed, beet seed. I mean, everything we do requires, participation with your neighbors. And the other thing, and this actually comes out quite a bit that we talk about. I'm on the 3rd largest river. So the delta that I farm is on the 3rd largest river system on the West Coast. It's got all 5 species of salmon. So it's the only one on the West Coast that have all the native salmon. So people in Seattle, the most important, all those merit badges you can get on your product of, like non-GMO, and all. The one that's most important for people in Seattle is salmon safe. Right. They really do. They appreciate that. So when I talk to people about why it's so important that we have legislation in Washington state that is farmer friendly, is because if we lose our farms, then it's only a matter of time before the high best use, argument comes in. And like I said, I'm urban adjacent. So I've got Seattle and Vancouver creeping in on me. And if we lose our ag land, the primary driver of water quality is soil quality, and the best way to maintain your soil quality is to farm it responsibly. And if we lose our farms, we're going to lose that, and we'll lose the salmon, and the orca will follow, and it's just going to get weirder quicker, and it's completely preventable. Because what we need is dialogue and commerce. We need to figure out what it is our urban neighbors will pay for in order to keep farming, and I know they'll pay for experiences.
Do you guys rotate tulips?
Yes. Yeah, and that is actually the hardest thing for me, because I actually farm in a hazelnut orchard. And so when I started my farm, my partner had 30 acres of hazelnut. So I actually farm up the middle of the hazelnut rows. And the hazelnuts actually provide a little bit of shade, which is good, and they absorb a lot of the water because tulips need really good drainage. But this year will be the first year. You're supposed to put tulips on a 3 to 4 year rotation, and I actually this year I didn't. This is my 3rd year in the same soil, and my flowers look like garbage because they got a lot of botrytis. Because the other thing is I can't spray because I'm UPIC, right? So I get emails from my friends in the Netherlands like, "Hey, Andrew, your flowers look like crap. Did you forget to spray?" And it's like, no, I just can't spray because I've got 3,000 people in the field today. And so they're just coming to these trade-offs. But this year we're actually going to we're going to rotate in daffodils and actually push out our fields. Because I've got 25 acres to farm, and I probably have between 10 and 12 acres of flowers, depending on how thick I plant. So
do you guys think people from Ames would come out and pick? I live on Sand Hill Trail. I mean, that could work.
Yeah, I tell you what, the number here I actually gave it my Tulip TED Talk at the World Tulip Summit, and so I'll just give you the 3x5 card. Proximity to willingness to pay is how you make money with experience with agritourism. Because I have friends in the Detroit area. First year out of the gate, they did tulips. They had a corn maze. They did all the fall stuff. First year out of the gate, they did 3 times my revenue in a third of the time because they're 20 minutes from downtown Detroit. So they knew their market. They knew the people in Detroit that would come out to take pictures. They didn't even do UPIC. It was just come out, take pictures in a field full of flowers.
There's a lavender farm right next to you.
Mm-hmm. I think you'd have to draw from Des Moines because Ames is a college town. So most of the population is kids that are probably not willing to pay for the experience.
Well, I look at Center Grove Orchard, man. The amount of people that come up just take pictures. They got sunflowers.
Des Moines.
All those sunflowers down there, man.
Yep. And that's what you're selling. It's that Instagram. Right, it's the glory, right? You're selling experiences or memories and Insta glory, right? People want to get out there and say, "Where did that picture come from? That's so cool that you got to do that. I want to be you." That's what we see a ton of.
I say that to Dave every time he makes a post. Yeah, I just want to be you.
Where are you?
Yeah, the Insta glory.
What did you say your flowers this year had arthritis?
They had botrytis. Yeah, which is it's a fungus that gets on there. Potatoes can get it too, but
like field Botox.
Yeah, it's a fungus that you can spray for, but you got to be able to spray for it.
And you are going to rotate it with another flower. Like I didn't think of that as rotating. Like I think of that as, corn and beans are two different species.
Different.
Yeah.
No, and yeah, as long as I'm not bringing tulips in, I can rotate it with another flower. And that's what they do in the Netherlands. Like they rotate the tulips and then daffodils and then irises and then.
So are those other flowers bulbs also?
Yes. Yep. But they're not tulip bulbs, and so they don't have the same disease pressure.
With U-Pick, can you spray? And is there like a timeline? With cattle, we can give them hormones, but before we can take them to any kind of locker or any kind of sale barn, you have to have a period of nothing.
Withdrawal.
Yes.
Withdrawal period. Is there like a withdrawal period for tulips that like, hey, we could spray them, get rid of this, but then you can't come out and pick for another 20 days?
Yeah, it's like 12 hours that I put what I spray for botrytis. And so if I had good weather, which I never have during the spring, so it's got to be dry and not windy. Well, I couldn't spray anyway, right? For me, that's 6 o'clock in the morning. But I don't have 12 hours from 6 o'clock in the morning when my field is going to be full of people at 8. And so I spray it, but as much as I can until, we open, and then I go through, I pull out the fire heads, which are the diseased flowers, so that they don't spread across, but that's by hand. I've got 20 miles of tulip trail and 2 farm workers, and it's really hard to stay in front of. So the best way to do it is like you bring in new bulbs and new soil, your chance of disease is almost nothing. It's just when you try to get cute, like I did, that you can get bit in the butt.
How many varieties did you say there were?
There are 2,600 varieties. I grow about 140, and my wife who does. So here's the other thing. Here's the punchline, guys. I'm colorblind. Okay, I'm Andrew, the colorblind tulip farmer. So it doesn't even look the same to me. So my wife, everything that's great, beautiful about our farm, my wife does. Okay, and everything that is sideways is on me. But she designs the field. She like we were in Holland last week, and she was sitting down with the broker saying, "Here's all the varieties that I want." And so we'll be pushing 200 different varieties next year. And that's just, people love that, right? People want to come out and get macro photography, all that other stuff, but it's a diversity of, it's not yellow, red, and purple flowers in the middle of the field. There's so many different varieties.
So do you feel like that allows you to have a unbiased or removed business mind when you look at your farm because you can't see the color?
Yeah, I see the colors. I just see them different. And this is actually the first year, because I'm a big idea guy, right? But this is the first year. I was coming out of we had fantastic weather. Like everything that could have gone right for me went right for me this year. Like our social media our digital marketing was dialed in. We had like 5 weekends of great weather, and I now know what the top end of my revenue is, and that's a little bit depressing. Right. Mm-hmm. Because you think you're like, oh no, it's, this is millions of dollars. But now I have to actually look at it differently. And so I do have that kind of, I want to say, a clear eye towards the business, whereas my wife can just be the creative and say, hey, she's got the task list. Fill the field with flowers that people want to take pictures of. Right. That's her job. And that's my job then to turn around and figure out how to make money with it.
So she's the chief color officer.
She is.
She get a box of crayons. That's what I get for that.
Yeah.
Pigtails? Like I'm thinking Dutch, like Dutch pigtails. Whatever that's called.
No, she is 9% Dutch though. She did find that out. She did her DNA thing and said, all right, well now it's not cultural appropriation because I'm 0% Dutch. When people find out that I'm a colorblind lawyer who isn't even Dutch, it's growing tulips, they're like, I want my money back.
I want my money back.
So 2,600 varieties I'm assuming, so the Dutch, they control basically all the breeding and all
98% of all the bulb industry, but really the tulips it's Dutch controlled. Even if it's not grown in Holland, if it's grown in New Zealand or Australia or Chile or Argentina or something like that, those are Dutch families that moved. Canada, that's another one.
Have the genetics people ever tried getting in there and like hybridization?
Yes, I met with a hybrid. I got a couple of favorite hybridizers. Yeah, actually, when I was in the Netherlands, and we were towards the end of their season, the one field that had the most color was the hybridizer that I met. I actually met him last October, and I went and checked on his field. And he had like a field of a couple hundred varieties that don't even have names yet. And this is kind of cool, but at the same time, he's like, maybe 1 or 2 of these varieties is going to make it in terms of what the flower growers want to see, right? And those geneticists, right? They're looking for stem length and vibrancy of color, right? And to some extent, disease protection or resistance, because most tulip bulb production is going for cut flowers. So I think the global tulip industry is worth about $4 billion, and 2.8 of that is in cut flowers, right? So they're really feeding that industry. And so a lot of the new bulbs that are coming out, they won't say that they're not bred for perennialization, like the stuff that comes back every year, but they're also saying that that's not important. So yeah, that's
Can you buy tulips around here to like plant? You said you have them at your house?
Yeah, you can buy tulip bulbs.
You can?
Yeah, you
You
can
can get them in Lowe's, or you can get them in Tyson's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. So hybridization. So they plant a red tulip next to a yellow tulip, and then they hope that the bulbettes.
Well, it's actually the seeds get together, and it's fascinating because then you get like flowers that are legit split right down the middle. Half of it's white and half of it's pink because it's on its way to whatever it looks like. It'll take 20 years to go from a hybridized like seed to production level where you would be able to buy that flower, right? And
that
so
sounds
it's
painfully
I'm guessing
slow.
big tulip.
it is. That's exactly it.
That.
And and it's just because they split, right? And so it's exponential. It starts with one flower, and then there's 4, and then there's 16, and then so it goes on and on and on. But until you'd have a flower to be able to put out to market, and then a lot of growers, like that's the other thing is that not all tulips are created equal. And so stuff that yields really well might not be popular. And like there's the most popular tulip in the United States right now is oh shoot, I'm gonna forget the name of it because I hate it so much. It's a copper colored flower, and with a French name. It'll come to me as soon as I forget. But anyway, La Belle Époque. Everybody wants it because it's for weddings and all this other stuff. They hate growing it in the Netherlands. They're like, it doesn't yield very well. Yeah, everybody's paying $1 a bulb for it, but it's just not worth it. So the growers are like, yep, nope. I don't care how popular it is around the world. It doesn't yield well for me, so I'm not going to grow it. Figure something else out. So they do. They take a flower that yields really well, and they try to breed in the aspects of that Belle Époque to be able to say, oh, here's one that yields well, and it's got the same color. We'll take this one off the market and force you to buy the one that yields well.
You
So
said there's
they're
a
no
couple
dummies.
of different growers right in your valley there?
Yes.
You guys should call Discovery and have Tulip Wars.
Yeah, right? No, I know. I'm all
Like,
about that.
Tulip Wars,
Yeah.
like I could totally see you, and like the whole world would geek out. I'm like, well, this is what my farm's doing today. And this is
I tell you what, if Clarkson's farm, Clarkson's farm's got nothing on the drama that goes around bulbs. Good. Tulips are all drama all the time. I mean, it's something.
Tulips are all drama.
Tulips do cause drama all the time.
Yeah.
So could you plant? Like you said, you're rotating your tulips. Could you intercrop? Like I'm looking at a picture right now. I've got it up on the screen from Google, and it looks like tulips are planted in rows. Like 36-inch spacing.
Yep.
Could you plant your daffodils in between that, and then just alternate your rows, or can they
Yep,
not be grown
you could.
simultaneously?
Yeah, you totally could. And that's just something we've thrown around because again, it was something that I do that again they don't do in the Dutch, and I don't have the burden of convention. I'm like Andrew. They call me the tulip outlaw because I just don't follow any of the rules because they don't really apply to me. Like the when you plant, all this other stuff. I mean, there's some principles there, but I plant for coverage, right? So I mix all of my tulips together, especially in the U-Pick area, because when people come out to the farm, they don't want to be disappointed, right? And so tulips, they bloom early, mid, and late. They have different blooming times. They don't all come on at once because they have different dormancy phases. And so when they come on, I mix all my earlies, all my mids and lates so that I get as much color coverage as possible. So that when people hit my field, they're like, oh, look, there's 5 acres of color. It's not all in color, but I don't have 2 acres of color and then 3 acres that are in green. So we mix that all in, and we're actually looking at doing that with daffodils too, because the way you make money in agritourism, at least spring agritourism, is good weather weekends. So if I can stretch out the surface area, the calendar of good weather weekends, it doesn't matter if it's the second week in March. I won't have tulips, but I'll have daffodils. And so if I can mix that in, if instead of having a 2 acre block of daffodils, if I can sprinkle the daffodils in through, then it's fun because I don't have that convention of like, oh, it's not the way we do it.
Repeat customers like tulip savants that are like, oh, it's weekend 1. We're going to go back on weekend 2 and see what
They
you do.
totally do. Yep. They'll text me, they'll call me. They're like, hey, are the salmon impressions up yet? Like they know down to and every morning I do a field walk on Facebook or Instagram, right? I'll go out there. Here's your bloom check. I'll walk around the field, show everybody what's in bloom. And then some people are like, oh, I got to come up and see, this is my favorite flower. And then, we get people. We sell season passes. We have people come
like a
through.
ski resort. They got the webcam, like
Yep.
an only tulips. Like an only tulips cam, that you
Yep.
can see. People can subscribe.
Have you
Right.
incorporated anything else besides flowers?
So I have hazelnuts, and I don't know how to make money with my hazelnuts. I have 25 acres of hazelnuts, and the challenge again is that's a commodity, and all the processors are down in Oregon, so it doesn't really pencil for me. And we've been going round and around. We could do you-pick hazelnut, but it's not a thing, right? There's not like a fall filbert festival or something like that. It sounds good, but I'm going to have to put $10,000 or $15,000 into promoting an event like that may or may not make money. When I could just take that same 10 grand and put it into daffodils or digital marketing and know that I'm going to get a return on that. And so right now those filberts
like almost the petting zoo or for the kids, like you said.
Oh yeah.
They do, gosh, they're open year round. And
right.
That place, as long as it's decent out, it is packed every weekend.
Right.
Remember Froberg when we went out to California?
Yeah.
He had
Froberg's Texas.
Or Texas, yeah. The strawberries. They had beds, and so I'm looking at the picture that Tanner has up, and they're 36-inch rows. Are all of yours with beds that you put in, or is it all just straight flat ground? You said less water the better sometimes on some of those.
Yeah, so I work up about so my planter is 4 feet, it's 1.5 meters, and it's Dutch, and then so I work up those beds and I plant in those beds, but they're not like raised beds. I'm planting at 6 to 8 inches below, and I've got my planter is 20 feet long and weighs 6,000 pounds. So that's how I put millions of bulbs in the ground. The stuff by hand we can get cute with. But actually, Tyler called me about he did tulips for the first time this year.
Yep.
Froberg, yeah. And he called me. He's like, "Hey, how do you do this?" And he did his in raised beds as well. I have a friend who hooked him up, but he's got to do. I think he did drip line and some other things that you can do. But it's pretty curious. Yeah. No, that agritourism
cool
part's huge. Yeah. No, and we're looking at that too. It's like, how can I stay open longer? Right. And so do I do peonies after this? Do I do the petting zoo? We brought in some mini micro Highland cows that were more popular than the tulips. We had people show up just for the cows.
Oh yeah.
Right. So, and I did the research on that. If you look under rural tourism, the number one attraction for rural tourism is animals in a field. Number 2, church. I couldn't believe it. People go out to the sticks to go to church. I was like, well, I'm pretty sure they have church in the city, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture from your website right now, and I was expecting when you said hazelnut orchard or whatever it is, the trees would be bigger.
Yeah, they're in their 7th year.
Yeah, they look like they're about as tall as a person, 6 to 8 feet.
Yeah,
tall.
they're not too. Yeah, they might be 6, 8 feet in some places. But
is it hazelnuts that need a male tree, or there's a female on a male, or is that something else?
Yeah, no, I think they do. And again, you can fill a thimble with what I know about them because they were there before I was. What I know is they help me maintain the moisture control, and they provide some shade. And if they could get taller, bigger, the taller they get, and the more full they get, then the better shade that they provide. But here's the other thing: they also get to block the color. So when people come out to my farm, they're like, "Where's your tulips at?" If you pop a squat, they're underneath the you gotta get down to see where the color is. So it's a bit of a detriment there. I kind of want to take out about every other row, and so I could have more space to plant tulips, especially since I'm not making money on them.
Scope is 25 acres. Is that what you said?
Yes, I have 25 that I farm. Mm-hmm.
So how did you go from the tech industry saying I'm done with this and I'm just gonna go farm tulips?
No, yeah. So what happened is I got in. I was a strategist working in economic development. So I worked for the local economic development association, and part of my job was to figure out what could our community be the best in the region or the best in the world at. And I landed on 3, and it was value added ag and food, arts, culture, events, and entertainment, and outdoor recreation, and travel and outdoor recreation. And so a lot of working with what we were famous for, because we used to do 4,000 acres of tulips in Skagit Valley, right, back in the 90s. And so everybody knows Skagit Valley for the tulips. And so I zeroed in on that, and there was a farm that was transitioning. They really only were 2 left 10 years ago. And it was an 85-year-old Dutchman, and his wife said it's time to hang it up. And so I put together a group of friends with some capital, and we took over that farm. And I was the only one that was full time. And so boom, I woke up one morning and I cared about what the soil temperature was, and I realized I was farming. And it kind of took off from there. And I figured out that I really liked having a different set of challenges every day. But that's how I got into it. And then I figured out that my first year out of the gate was COVID. Like literally the world shut down 10 days before I was going to open for my first year, my inaugural year. So I only know disruption. So I spent more time on the phone with my marketing professor, because I just finished my MBA, figuring out, hey, how do we do this? And because I didn't have again that burden of, oh no, we're just woe is me. It's like, no, I've got an asset, I've got an audience. And so I spent hours every day broadcasting the bloom to everybody that was stuck at home. The year after that, we did 3 times revenue. I had people flying in from Dallas and Singapore and Thailand and Russia to see my flowers, because I had one lady from Philadelphia just burst into tears, giving me the biggest hug. She said, you saved my life with your flowers during COVID. The only thing I had to look forward to is your daily Bloomcast. And I was like, wow, there's some powerful stuff here. And then that's why I kind of tapped into that significance of flowers. And I said, we have to help people understand everything that goes into that. And so that's really what our farm is based on. It's that whole story of it's that renewal, which is great because tulips are like a symbol literally of renewal. And that was my case. And then I got topped, right? I was in this group of friends and we all went to high school together, and they decided to take the farm in a different direction. And I got pushed out and I started another one. Like, well, here we go. This is what happens in tulips. This is what happens in tulip farming.
So the ground you have now, the 25 acres, are you renting that, or did you purchase that?
So I have a partner who's a 72-year-old potato farmer who had that hazelnut orchard, and so I farm it in a partnership with him.
Okay.
So yeah.
How important is social media in your world?
Oh, it's massively important. All of the storytelling. Without the story, we're really just another farm. Another tulip farm, one of 5. And that really is kind of what distinguishes us. So I spend a lot of time on social media. It's just a lot of storytelling because it has all the significance that we give it. And then what I need to do is tap into other people. And I tell people what's great about tulips is everybody has a tulip story. And when they come to my farm, they make my farm part of their story. So it's just kind of like we're the canvas for them to tell their own story. So I spend, I don't know, we call it Farm Talks with Farmer Miller or Farmer Andrew. And 3 times a day, I sit down and tell people our story and the story of tulips, and the background of tulips, and a lot of what I was telling you about how important agriculture is to the ecosystem, ecologically and economically, and from a heritage perspective, and you just don't get that a lot of other places. And so I spend a lot of time pushing out content.
So if you had to buy that orchard, right? That's what you call it, an orchard?
Yeah.
Call it that.
What's an acre of hazelnut orchard go for?
So in Skagit Valley, depending on water rights are a huge issue here. And the issue, so here, the funny thing is I'm actually a water commissioner. I'm an elected official. So I deal a lot with the water issues. And so we have 4 federally recognized tribes. And so there's salmon and all this other stuff. And so you unless you have a well already, you're not going to get a new one. And so water rights are huge. And so you pay about twice as much for land that has access to water as not. And so it's about $15,000 an acre is the going rate, if you can find it. Yeah.
Well, I guess.
So I was just going to say.
Yep, not far.
Yeah.
I usually have a game prepared for episodes like this when we run out of things to talk about, and that's not the case today, but I still want to play the game because I want your perspective. Somebody with a military background and 1,700 degrees and a flower guy that can't see color. I'm curious your perspective on Would You Rather.
Okay.
Have you played Would You Rather before?
Yes, but it's been a long time.
Okay, so would you rather fight off 100 duck-sized horses or 1 horse-sized duck?
100 horse, the 100. Because the other one I would just terrify. Yeah, the
horses?
small and many.
Where did you come up with this?
We after you went to bed with Millennial Farmer and Master Pipe Layer, we tried asking the same question, and they couldn't understand the difference between a horse-sized duck and a duck-sized horse.
Yeah.
They kept thinking it was the regular size of both animals.
Yep.
Yeah, honestly, ducks are mean. If they had size to them, that wouldn't be fun.
No.
That's terrifying. Yeah.
So Corey was telling me a story this morning about how he accidentally texted back to the wrong person yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So would you rather accidentally text your landlord instead of your spouse, or accidentally text your banker instead of your best friend?
Oh, my landlord. Definitely don't want to accidentally text my banker. Anything.
What'd you do? You texted somebody yesterday saying that you thought somebody looked like a terrorist and it wasn't who you thought it was.
Well, they know who they are, and they do.
Yeah, we can look into that. I know some folks.
I know people.
Would you rather have to moo like a cow every time you entered a room or cluck like a chicken when you got excited?
Oh, moo like a cow. I get pretty excited a lot, so I don't want to be clucking away.
Wouldn't that be awkward? Get a little excited and have to cluck?
Yeah. I'd rather just announce my entry.
Everybody likes cows better.
Yep.
Yeah.
And one that hits home, the last one that hits home for us right now, because we just got 4 inches of rain in 24-ish hours. Would you rather always have too much rain or not enough?
Ooh, I would rather have too much rain.
I think we'd be opposite.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of drought tolerant stuff here.
Yeah. This is wild. This gives us another excuse of we should just take a year sometime and travel to all these places that we want to go see.
Yep.
Whether we go back to Sonoma County and visit all the wineries and folks that we talked to in California, we pop on up to see Tulip Festival. So is Tulip Festival like a weekend, or do they do the
It's
full
month
season?
long. Yeah, it's a month-long festival. It actually jumped out. So there's a whole like board, and it's a whole thing up here. It started with the chamber, and now it's its own thing of reaching out to people and trying to get our urban neighbors to come up and support agriculture.
I'm coming your way in August up to BC, Vancouver. That'd be
Yeah.
fun.
Right. Yeah, it's just about an hour north.
Yeah, we just need access to a jet and funding for that jet, and we can
There
just
you have
it. Have jet will travel.
How many people do you get that are on cruises going? A lot of cruises go out of Vancouver there. Do you get a bunch of old people that come down for tulips?
We don't. No, we're a bit off the beaten path there. We do get a lot of tour buses out of Seattle, and we used to get them out. But this year, nothing. Like our Canadian travel is way down just due to the climate. Yeah, we get some out of Anacortes, which is a tiny little port that we have. But
You ever thought of starting your own tour bus? I think of Amazon and Jeff, and he started his own shipping company, literally, and now they ship, and it made their product better. Have you ever thought of? I see churches do it. They'll start a bus just to get people to come to the church. Do you ever?
Nah, that's pretty capital intensive, and so we'll just partner with folks they're already running tours out of Seattle. We do that. We do a lot of outreach. So
A lot of partnerships.
yeah. Well, that's a really good point, though. I mean, all of the infrastructure. I don't even have a barn. Like I have a big tent that I set up just because it used to be a hazelnut orchard, right? And so I got to bring in a generator. I don't have power. I don't have water. I mean, I have a canal that runs up the middle of my field, but every time I turn around to try to, it's like, well, we need it because it's windy and we need a barn or something. Like, well, it doesn't pencil. Like we gotta, we want to do a wedding venue or something like that. Well, we're 3 or 4 years of retained earnings before we're gonna be able to take that to the bank. So it takes a little bit longer. But yeah, to your point, it's like all the things that we want to do. It's like,
So your wife and you are living solely off of those 25 acres?
no, I have I'm actually the CEO of the United Way of Skagit County, so that's my off-farm job. So I just take a leave of absence in April, and she's a recovering stay-at-home mom, so she does all of that. And then my sister actually is our business manager and takes care of all the back end, the website, the ticketing, and dealing with angry emails and all that other stuff.
What did you call her? A recovering stay-at-home mom?
Right. Yeah, she's a recovering stay-at-home mom. We still have kids at home, so I can't really say that. But our youngest is a freshman in high school. So
okay.
Yeah.
New word for empty nester.
I heard a deal. Was that with you? That's trad. Traditional is the stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Who was that? Who said that?
Wasn't me.
Oh, you're so trad.
Oh, there you go.
What?
Nope.
Kids these days.
Kids.
Well, Andrew, if somebody wants to come see you or look up your story, how best do they connect with you?
Just our website, tulipvalley.com. Yeah, or you can send me an email at andrew@tulipvalley.com. So we love to share what's going on with tulips. Love to share our journey, and I think it's you talked about that innovation part, right? I think there are a lot of people that are sitting on stories and assets that I've had a good time unpacking, and I spent a lot of time talking with other people. If somebody wants to get into tulips, you can give me a holler as well. But I think the future of agriculture is as bright as we decide. right? I think that's we're going to have to, but it's creating new value. And I think that's the part that has been fun for me because I didn't grow up in it. And so I get to look at stuff with fresh eyes. So yeah, happy to talk to anybody about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for one, connecting with us, and two, for not being afraid to share your story. I wrote down on the top of my page, what you do doesn't matter until it changes what I do. That was very impactful to me. And then, of course, the rest of your story as well. So
Great.
Thanks again for hanging out with us. Corey, what do you tell our listeners?
Thank you, Andrew. Crack a cold one. You deserve it.